Heroes of the City of Man, pages 231 to 239. Virgil's introduction of Dido is also significant. Aeneas first sees her while he is looking at one of the pictures on the temple walls, a picture of Penthesilea leading a battalion of Amazons, a tribe of women warriors, into battle against the Greeks, a girl who dared fight men. While he gazes at the Amazon warrior, the queen paced toward the temple in her beauty, Dido with a throng of men behind. Like a scene from a movie where one character's face dissolves into the face of another, identifying the two characters, Penthesilea dissolves into Dido. The threat that Dido represents is heightened by Virgil's comparison of Dido and Diana, for Diana is a huntress who appears with her quiver slung on her shoulders. Dido is an Amazon, a woman in a man's world who dares to fight not only men but the will of Jupiter. Diana, the huntress, that is an appropriate comparison. Before Dido is introduced, Virgil initiates a hunting motif that runs through the first 4 books. When Odysseus arrives at Circe's island, he goes hunting to provide food for his crew, and follows with a reassuring speech. Similarly, Aeneas goes hunting to secure food for his men, and shoots 7 stags, and then encourages his men to perseverance. A hunt seems harmless enough, even necessary, but the Homeric allusion is foreboding. After Odysseus's hunting expedition, his men encounter a powerful witch who turns them to swine and erases all desire to continue their journey. Aeneas's hunting expedition leaves us expecting he will meet another Circe who will turn him into a pig, unconcerned with his homecoming. As the story progresses, the hunting motif becomes more ominous. After listening to Aeneas's tale of his woes, Dido's heart is filled with longing, a wound or inward fire eating her away. Though it arises from a different passion, Dido's wound associates her with Juno, who suffers an eternal wound of Paris's judgment. More explicitly, Virgil describes Dido's passion as follows. Unlucky Dido, burning in her madness, roamed through all the city like a doe, hit by an arrow shot from far away, by a shepherd hunting in the Cretan woods. Hit by surprise, nor could the hunter see, his flying steel had fixed itself in her, but though she runs for life, through copse and glade, the fatal shaft clings to her side. Just in case we have not gotten the point, Dido's love for Aeneas is sealed when, during a hunt, it begins to rain and they retreat into a cave. Remember Calypso? Landing on the shores of Africa, Aeneas kills his stag to feed his men. He does not realize that other victims will follow. Dido's passion is a product of the unlikely alliance of Venus and Juno, but the arrows that wound her are Ascanius and the story she hears from Aeneas. Virgil is paying homage to Homer here. A large and famous chunk of the Odyssey records the tales that Odysseus tells the Phaeacians. Dido's reaction is partly the result of her deep sympathy for the sufferings that Aeneas has endured. Venus has told Aeneas that Dido, too, is in exile, forced to leave her homeland because her brother, Pygmalion, killed her rich husband, Sychaeus, out of greed for his wealth. Pygmalion hid his crime from Dido for a long time, but finally Sychaeus appeared to her in a dream and urged her to flee to a new land, where she would build a new Tyrian civilization. Aeneas cannot help but recognize his own experience in Dido's, and she finds her sorrow reflected in his. My life was one of hardship and forced wandering, like your own, till in this land at length fortune would have me rest, though through pain I've learned to comfort suffering men. Virgil includes a story of Troy's fall, not only because of its inherent interest, but also because it serves the purposes of his epic. From the time Aeneas awakes to find Troy in flames through the end, Book 2 has a roughly concentric structure. Hector appears to Aeneas in a dream. He tells him to leave. Aeneas puts on armor and tries to fight. Aeneas sees Priam killed and thinks of his family. Aeneas begins to attack Helen. Venus intervenes to tell him to leave. Aeneas goes to his father, who refuses to leave the city until an omen appears. Aeneas returns to the city to find his wife, Creusa. Creusa's ghost appears to tell Aeneas to leave. Initially, Aeneas acts like a Homeric hero, going through an Iliadic and then an Odyssean phase. Like another Achilles, he rages in fury against the treachery of the Greeks. He is acting out of furor, not only in his anger, but also in the fact that he refuses to bow to the destiny that Hector, Venus, and Creusa reveal to him. Then he puts on Greek armor, and like another Odysseus, fights in disguise. He realizes the hopelessness of his Homeric efforts when he sees King Priam, the embodiment of Troy, fall before Achilles' son, Piraeus. As a king goes, so goes a city, and for the first time Aeneas seriously thinks about leaving. Though forced to accept his fate, he needs another reminder from Venus before he returns to his family. Anchises at first refuses to leave, but once he sees a flame on Iülus' head, a sign that Jupiter confirms with a thunderclap, he submits to Jupiter's will and urges Aeneas to leave. Throughout Aeneas' journey, Anchises will play a crucial role, acting as his son's conscience, urging him to continue his journey until his destiny is achieved. Virgil's description of the sign on Iülus' head is a capstone of a thread of imagery that began with the tail of the Trojan horse. A tongue of flame appears, snake-like, licking his fine hair, playing round his temples. Earlier, another sign involving young men was given. When the Trojan priest Laocoon warns the Trojans not to accept the Greek horse and throws his spear into the horse's belly, Neptune sends twin snakes with burning eyes, fiery and suffused with blood, their tongues a flicker out of the hissing maws, which enveloped one of his two boys, twining around and feeding on the body. Two signs are given, one involving snakes described as flames, and the other involving a flame that is described as a snake. The Trojans misinterpret the first sign, believing that Laocoon is being punished for desecrating the horse, and this mistake leads to the death of Troy. Anchises, on the other hand, rightly interprets the sign of Iülus and sets off on a journey that will end with Troy's rebirth. Virgil pushes the imagery further, however, just as Laocoon issues his warning and launches his spear into the belly of the horse. Several Trojans show up with a Greek captive, Cimon, who assures them that the Greeks really have gone for good. Simon's name is similar to the Latin word for snake's coils, sinus, and the word for the undulating motion of a snake, insinuat. Cimon is a snake, a deceiver, like all Greeks. When the snakes come out of the sea to capture Laocoon, fear slithered, insinuat, into the Trojans' hearts. The snakes then slither away to the temple of Minerva, which is a place where the horse is going to be taken. Snakes, deceivers, are associated with the horse, which is, of course, the main deception. When the horse delivers its deadly children from its womb, Piraeus, Achilles' son, makes his way through Priam's palace and the temple of Troy. As a serpent, hidden, swollen underground, by a cold winter writhes into the light. On vile grass fed, his old skin cast away, renewed and glossy, rolling slippery coils with lifted underbelly rearing sunward and triple tongue a-flicker. Troy is overthrown by treacherous Greek serpents, but a serpent-like flame promises deliverance and a new beginning. Book 2 shows an Aeneas reluctant to leave old Troy behind, slow to embrace his future. Book 3 is a little better, for the story of his journey is a tale of repeated false starts. At each landing, the story is much the same. The Trojans land and offer sacrifice, but a plague or disaster of some sort forces them to leave, and they are given a prophecy of their future final landing. We should continually recall that Aeneas is telling these stories to Dido. Like the stories Odysseus tells the Phaeacians, Aeneas' tales are as much commentary on the present as they are a recounting of the past. Many of these places are like old Troy, defiled and cursed by the transgression of Paris. Others, such as Buthrotum, are built on nostalgia. Buthrotum is a Trojan settlement ruled by Helenus, son of Priam, who is now married to Andromache, widow of Hector. After the Trojan War, Andromache is initially taken by Achilles' son, Piraeus. But in something of a reversal of the war, Helenus receives the Trojan woman back. When Aeneas arrives, Bilthutrum looks like home, even a new Troy, but it is still too much the old one. Andromache has not been able to adjust to her exile. She offers sacrifices beside a thin replica of the Trojan river Simois at a tomb that is called Hector's, where she had blessed twin altars for her tears. Sunt lacrimae rerum in Buthrotum, as in Carthage, but in Buthrotum, Aeneas does not see anything like the dynamic effort to found a new city that he witnesses in Carthage. Instead of buildings, as Dido does, Helenus and Andromache have constructed a miniature replica of their old city. Helenus and Andromache are living in the past, and this is not Aeneas' fate. He must be transformed from a Trojan into a Roman. After hearing Aeneas' story, Dido is inflamed with love. She first resists it, remembering her oath that she would never remarry, but her sister Anna counters by talking of the glory that would come to Carthage if Aeneas were king. "Sister, what a great city you'll see rising here, and what a kingdom, from this royal match. With Trojan soldiers as companions in arms, by what exploits will Punic glory grow?" Dreams of glory set her free of scruple, and Dido gives herself entirely to her passion. Instead of enhancing the glory of Carthage, Dido's passion diminishes it. After her encounter with Aeneas in the cave, about which Virgil is very discreet, Dido considers herself married to Aeneas, and she completely forgets her public duties. Towers half built rose. No farther, men no longer trained in arms, or toiled to make harbors and battlements impregnable. Projects were broken off, laid over, and the menacing huge walls with cranes unmoving stood against the sky. Aeneas also forgets himself and his love for Dido. When Mercury sees him, he found Aeneas laying foundations for new towers and homes. He noted well the sword hilt the man wore, adorned with yellow jasper in the cloak, aglow with Tyrian dye upon his shoulders, gifts of the wealthy queen who had inwoven gold thread into the fabric. Instead of new Troy, he is busy building new Tyre. Instead of the simple Roman toga, he is wearing garments of more than oriental splendor. Just what you'd expect from a Trojan. That is what King Iarbas thinks of Aeneas' courtship of the queen. Dido has previously rebuffed Iarbas' offers of marriage, and he is enraged that she is now willing to make Aeneas master in her realm. To Iarbas, Aeneas is just another Paris who steals another man's wife. In Virgil's Iliad, several of Aeneas' opponents will charge him with being another Paris, but in both cases the parallel is less than exact. When Aeneas meets Dido, she is neither married nor given in marriage. Like Dido, Aeneas is forced to choose between achieving his destiny, between Pietas and following his personal desire to stay with Dido. This choice is forced on him when Mercury comes to issue a sharp rebuke. What a waste! Aeneas, father of the Roman race, builds the walls of a city his descendants will later destroy. The key appeal, however, is to Aeneas' duty to his son. Think of Ascanius. Think of the expectations of your heir. Mercury's words inflame Aeneas, but not with love for Dido. Now he, burned only to be gone, to leave that land of the sweet life behind. But Mercury is not the only prick to Aeneas' conscience. Anchises has appeared to him in dreams, urging him to move on. During the journey from Troy, Anchises has molded Aeneas' unformed Pietas, and even in death he continues to lead the Trojan expedition. Pietas toward Anchises and Ascanius demands that Aeneas leave, but it is important to see that he is genuinely torn by the decision. After Dido unleashes the fury of her frustrated love, she faints, leaving Aeneas at a loss, alarmed and mute with all he meant to say. He knows she is sick with love, but, duty-bound, pious, Aeneas, though he struggled with desire to calm and comfort her in all her pain, to speak to her and turn her mind from grief, and though he sighed his heart out, shaken still with love of her, yet took the course heaven gave him, and went back to the fleet. Some scholars see that pious as sarcastic. Look at the straight-laced Aeneas, acting like a prude, leaving behind the beautiful Carthaginian queen to follow his destiny. This is not Virgil's view, however. Aeneas is acting piously here, turning his back on his own pleasure in order to do his duty. There are several other dimensions to this decision. In suppressing his own desire to public duty, Aeneas is a model Roman and model Stoic. Overlaying this is Virgil's opposition of East and West. The East is a land of splendor, luxury, and passion. The West is a land of simplicity, duty, and reason. Dido is given to the charms of Carthage because she is a Phoenician, an Asian. But Aeneas insists that in Italy is my love. In his own person, Aeneas is acting out the cosmic battle that surrounds the epic. His passion for Dido is from Venus, Juno. It is feminine, a principle of irrationality and disorder. By choosing to follow his destiny, Aeneas is choosing to follow Jupiter's principle of order. Though romantics might wish that Aeneas and Dido could live happily ever after, the whole structure of the epic requires that he leave. This is one episode where many commentators see subtle criticism of Rome and Augustus. Virgil shows us Aeneas going on to establish a city of future glory, but he leaves behind a city that is stopped in its tracks, ruled by a suicidal queen, and both of these consequences are at least partly Aeneas' responsibility. As we have seen above, Virgil is not a postmodern Roman liberal who sees nothing good in the Roman Empire, but the story of Dido shows that he was deeply sensitive to the costs and tragic choices that empire building demands. He admires Rome's walls, but he wants us to know that when those walls arise, they are already stained with the blood of Dido.